welcome to Player 2 Start with Kat, Sack, and Jalk. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Doing awesome. Excited
Tired.
for episode 5.
Oh yeah.
I'm tired. I had a
Why are you
long day.
tired?
I volunteer at the school, so I was volunteering today to take care of some kindergartners, and kind of gets hectic, so kind of tired. Yeah, but I'm here.
I can understand. Well, what are you guys playing these days?
Recently, I've played more Hell Let Loose than I have other games. Just because, like, a lot of the guys want to get together on Discord and play a game that we all have, and everybody seems to. It seems to be a game that people are coming together to play. So, I've been playing that. I don't really know. The other game I would be playing would be Warhammer Total War. You always see me in there playing with a few guys. Yeah, how about you?
Kat, you wanna tell us about what you've been playing? I've been seeing your Instagram reels about what you've been playing.
I know. You guys already know that I've been down a deep rabbit hole of
Fortnite.
Fortnite. I have played a little bit of Red Dead Redemption 2, which has been a good time.
I'm glad.
Pretty slow pace. I like it a lot. There's a lot of story there. There's a lot of story. You gotta from what I understand, the other option is you don't get hardly any story and it's all action. So I want to get the story of it because everyone has told me for so long how much I love it. But other than that, I've been getting toxic in Fortnite, and they have an update today actually that includes some Star Wars skins.
I saw that, Anakin, and
I saw that too.
Yeah, my daughter has started playing Fortnite as of late. Yep, she started playing it on the PlayStation 4. I installed it first. Now she's
Did she see that and show you?
Yeah,
my son just today said the same thing. He was like, Papa, look, there's Star Wars on the Fortnite. So I'm like, what?
I always think about that. I'm like, man, am I did I just drop somebody's son or daughter?
My daughter was like, who's this guy? I was like, that's Anakin Skywalker, that's Darth Vader. Oh, Darth Vader, but doesn't he lose his legs? I was like, yeah, he does, but how does he lose them? I was like, oh my god, we're not.
Gotta watch the movies. Read the books.
Obi-Wan Kenobi says, Anakin, I have the high ground, and it's like goes on, and he loses his. But exactly how. I was like, I'll tell you. I was like, we'll watch the movies, and you'll understand it better. So you don't explain it. Exactly. But the games that I've been playing. So I told you guys I was playing Zomboid with the crew for a few days. We had a few runs, and then we ended that. I took a little break. I was volunteering, so I haven't played a whole lot. But we have our own squadron for War Thunder, so we play competitively like every season. So we started that yesterday, and today's the second day. So after we're done tonight, I'll be joining the boys in schwacking some fools and some other squadrons. Be toxic like Kat said Fortnite. So I'll be doing that.
So much fun.
War Thunder is like crack for you guys, I think.
I swear to God, it is.
Speaking of Star Wars, real quick, I want to show the viewers what I bought at Disney World.
Oh
yeah, I know. Your pride and joy.
I got a new helmet, and it's nothing fancy, but it's a Rebel X.
That's awesome.
I like it.
I now expect you to wear that for the rest of the episode.
I will. I said I would too, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then also speaking of Star Wars, I have not played the new Star Wars game, but
neither have I.
I've heard lots about it.
So one of our friends, Arlon, as soon as it came out, he was like, "Hey, did you get the new Star Wars game?" And I said, "No, I just haven't bought it physically." And he's like, "Dude, you need to look it up because there's a lot of problems with this port being on PC."
Really?
And I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Yeah, check out these articles. Check out that's already written first day."
What is it, hardware issues, or is it not running properly, or
so
there's graphics complaints.
There's a lot of problems graphically for the PC port. And something interesting he mentioned was like, this has happened a lot with Square Enix ports to PC.
Yeah.
This is not the first game from Square Enix that's had this problem. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I was upset to hear that, but I won't be playing it for a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
I'm
why I
having
don't
enough
buy
problems.
AAA. Yeah, that's why I also don't buy AAA titles when they first come out, because a lot of time AAA titles are pushed out due to marketing and all those that we
Yeah,
discussed previously. You know,
Yeah.
they have a deadline to meet, they haven't fixed all the bugs, and they just release that because they don't invite normal folks like us to come in and beta test the game to make sure, ensure that the bugs are taken care of before the game is fully released.
right.
And I think that's the most important topic that we have today.
Yeah, I mean, like just thinking about it, like they have their own in-house testing going on.
Mhm.
Um, they don't they don't do beta testing with general
Yeah,
public.
yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
that's pretty much all the AAA houses these days,
yeah,
though.
yeah, and that's how it used to be
Yeah.
back in the day. Most game developers, or not game developers, but like most publishers would do their testing
Hmm.
um, in house. So they would have their own rigs set
Yeah.
up to their own specs, and they would, have people physically come into a building, sit
Yeah.
down, play a game, and test it for bugs. Now, what that means is that when they come home with the game
Their
for the general
machines.
public, yeah. So they're
Yeah.
testing it on potatoes, on extreme machines, anywhere in between that, with
Yeah.
different hardware, different graphics cards, different brands, and shit happens.
Yeah.
Like things
Yeah.
happen that they are not expecting to happen. You
Yeah.
know. Um.
Well, there's another thing that a lot of developers, what they do is they also hire a bunch of streamers to promote their game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
I've
they give
seen
them
that a
free
lot.
copies. They come in, but it's not mostly with single player games that I've noticed. It's more with more co-op and multiplayer based games that they'll
Mhm.
invite streamers in to try out. Like Call of Duty does that. Like they call in streamers, they come in and they test the game out. They help
Mm.
them with level design and all that. But a lot of times I've noticed that when we talk about beta testing and alpha testing, well, alpha testing does not exist. That's always in house, but a lot of beta testing by indie developers is done with people like you and me, because they don't have the same kind of funding like a AAA house would. And there are plenty of examples. If you go on Steam, you look up early access games, there's a lot of options that show up, and that show that
Tons.
Yeah.
tons. And I have quite a few games in my library that are early access, and I play them, and I think they're amazing games. What about you guys? Have you guys played any early access games that you've supported an indie developer
Um,
in developing a nice game?
So years ago, I played Fortnite when it was still in early access, but I mean, more recently, I've played Dead Side, which is I
Okay.
can't even remember by what developer. It's still in early access, and I first downloaded it like a year and a half ago, so it's
Hmm.
been in early access for a little bit. And then Valheim, which I think
Okay.
Zach also plays
Yeah,
Valheim
I've played it
too,
as well.
and yeah, I think that's a great game. But
Oh yeah.
I feel like I've since I started playing Valheim, I've seen improvements made.
Hmm.
Um, with I've heard some other early access games, and from what I've experienced with Dead Side, I don't see as much improvement or much change over time, unless I'm missing it, unless it's in the back end and I just don't know about it. But
Hmm.
I like that with those two specifically, there's at least a lot of information on their websites explaining where they're at in the process and where they're trying to go. But
Yeah.
from what I understand, some other games don't always give all of those types of details. It just kind of sits there for
Yeah.
a while.
For sure. Yeah, like I know I've bought into quite a few early access games. And you brought up Valheim. Valheim's a great example of a development company that's
Hmm.
doing really well with the early access model. And they're also by doing well, I mean like yes, they are being successful, but they're also giving the community great big updates
Yeah.
quite
Hmm.
regularly, right? And I think that's very, I don't want to say honorable, but I think it's a good example of one indie company doing the right thing and using that
So
model in the
yeah,
right way.
I agree
Yeah,
with that,
I
because
agree.
the parent company behind Valheim, right, and a couple other games that I've played. Well, another one, not the last one. So they've made three games, right? That I out of which I've played two. So Valheim, Satisfactory, and Deep Rock Galactic.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go on Steam, it shows different developers on it, but the main company, parent company behind it is Coffee Stain Studios, right?
Okay.
And Coffee Stain Studios makes really nice games. They don't have a whole lot of like they released the Goat Simulator, which was for the laughs. If you've seen it, like there are a lot of videos
Yeah.
about it. Like it's hilarious, like goats just running around and hitting people and making them fly out of the place. So
Right. Right.
it's a
Right.
hilarious game. So they released. They're the ones behind Valheim. They were the ones behind Deep Rock Galactic and Satisfactory. And I'll tell you this: every single one of their games has very positive to overwhelmingly positive reviews, because even though they're a smaller developer, they develop such polished games and push out updates at a very
Mhm.
fast pace to keep their teams engaged. They have a very active Discord, from what I've noticed, and they interact with their player base, which is an amazing thing as a developer to do, because you're showing interest that these people are investing in our company, they're buying our games, so we have to make sure that we're pushing out content consistently to keep our player base engaged and improving our game over time. This
Mhm.
thing cannot be said about every single indie developer, because some games are abandoned,
Yeah.
some games are have updates like 2 years down the line, so people
Yeah.
start weaning off the game.
For sure. Yeah. I know. Like I played a game called, I think it was In Silence,
Okay.
and it was kind of like a spooky kind of
Yeah.
like, it's kind of like a game where a monster hunts you. Anyway, and it was a pretty good concept. However,
Yeah.
the developer just dropped the project, and I don't know really what happened. There was like some rumors spreading around, like
Yeah.
maybe one of them died or whatever. In the end, the project was dropped,
Mhm.
and they're still selling the game. However, nothing's
It's not
happened in
finished.
like a year, or over a year. It's like, hey, why don't you tell people that this game is, there's no longer anything happening with this game.
Yeah.
Take it off Steam, take it off, because nobody
Yeah.
wants to buy this unfinished product.
Right.
Because you're trying to make money off a game that you're not working on. So that's kind of,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
It saddens me when it's that, and I'm a big fan of like I know you like horror games because you've been on my case to play Phasmophobia with you for some goddamn reason. I don't do that. Uh, Listen, I don't play horror games. I don't watch horror. I'm not
Hey,
scared.
I'm just as scared as you, man.
I'm not.
Yeah,
Like
I'll play them, but
I can't.
everyone will suffer if I
I don't
do.
watch I don't watch horror movies.
I
I
don't
don't do
either.
horror. I don't play horror games. I don't play, it's not my thing. I'm not gonna get scared. It's not like I'm gonna lose sleep over it. I just don't like it. It's
I
just
will lose sleep over it. I'll have nightmares. You'll all
listen.
hear about it.
But
Guys.
what I do like is survival games, and I'm a big fan of survival
Mhm.
games. And I've played survival games like, okay, a couple of games that I'm a big fan of. One is Project Zomboid. It's made by the Indie Stone. It came out 10 years ago. Well, not really. It came out like I believe November of 2013. So we're approaching that 10-year mark.
Mhm.
It's still in early access, but I'll, a lot of people will be like, "Oh wow, 10 years in early access."
That's a long time, man.
Daisy was like that. Okay, Daisy is made by the same developers of Arma 3. It only had a couple of people working on it. It took time, but now it's out and it's super popular. But the good thing about Zomboid, even with 10 years, is the consistency of development behind the game. The Discord, like I said, with Coffee Stain Studios, it's the same thing with Zomboid. Like the developers are on track. They keep giving you news. Hey, we're working on this. We're completely revamping the game. We're adding a whole new crafting system. We're adding NPCs. We're adding this. We're adding. But they give you like, hey,
They
and the
communicate.
modding, the
Right,
They're
community,
yeah.
still
and
there. They have a presence.
and the
Yeah.
modding community is so active. That game has some hilarious mods. Like there's dancing mod, like there's music from the 80s and you can play with your friends. Like I sent you guys a clip about us, me and the buddies
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that was
dancing
funny.
around it. And it's hilarious. Like it's fun. But
Yeah.
another game that I have significantly more hours in is 7 Days to Die. So that's
That's a
built
scary game, isn't it?
It is a
by,
scary game.
well, not the
It's
base.
got zombies. You know how I feel about zombies.
I know Sakurai does not do zombies, but so 7 Days to Die has been out since 2013, and they call it alpha. right? So they've been calling it Alpha 1, 2, 3. Now the last one was Alpha 20. Now they're just like pushing up Alpha 20 updates. And Alpha 21 is what they talked about last month. But Alpha 20 came out end of 2021. It's like over a year and a half ago that you released an
Yeah.
update for the game. But I'm not gonna hate on the game. I have over 1,000 hours in that game. Okay,
Wow.
I absolutely played the living crap out of that game, but not the base game. And there are a couple of really good mods. There's Darkness Falls and Ravenhurst. Now Ravenhurst is scary. Like when you Horde Night comes every 7 days, there's little girls talking like, "Daddy, I'm coming for you." You know,
That's
so it's spooky, but it's fun. But the only downside about that game, and it's not an expensive game, it's like $14-20 game, and it goes on sale most of the time for $7. It's a good game, but I would like more development from that game as a player. Like I'm pretty sure they're a very small house and they're doing their best, but I would like some more
yeah,
development
more content.
and
Yeah.
more content coming in quicker than a year and a half, goes by. Like
Oh, for
I
sure.
love your
I would
game.
be
I,
tired of a game by then if it wasn't
that's why
Mhm.
I
there wasn't more content or some kind of big update.
yeah.
I mean
But
that also like brings us to the question of like, what is early access? What is alpha and beta? And we dove kind of like in
Mhm.
this hole of
rabbit hole for
this
sure.
rabbit hole of like, what is this? Because every developer has their own version of what
And
those words.
platform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So like we tried to figure out, okay, alpha is kind of the same for everybody. Basically, alpha was it's a bare bones type of thing.
Yeah.
The game should not crash, but
But it's
and
not finished.
it's nowhere near as finished. Like, and there none of the features are like locked down to anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be a major game change
It's
in
very
in
high
that.
level.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much is across the board for. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For beta testing, that's where things kind of move on like a scale for different companies. Some will say a beta is like it's a finished product basically, and there's only some polishing going on.
Mhm.
And some will say, no, we have like major features coming to this game still. Um,
But it's
and
playable,
but it's playable,
you know.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for the most part, a beta should be a playable game, but sometimes it's to a certain point or to whatever, like there could be different things. What did you guys find the same kind of thing that I was looking at?
So
Yeah, I feel like some, well, when I looked into it, it seemed like some versions of or ideas of what beta is,
mhm,
here is the game, it's sellable, now play it, help us find the bugs, try to
yeah.
crash the game,
Yeah, I get that.
and then others, it seemed like, I almost get the feeling that those types of games are not going to go into early access. They're just going to release after that beta,
Hmm.
and then maybe some others they're going to go beta and then also early access because they're still far behind. Like their beta was like just like longer term alpha, really. It was just like late game alpha or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So I played Dark Tide. I've played betas before. I did the one for Elder Scrolls Online. I've done it like this. I'm talking about over the course of time, and I don't remember. I've shot memory. So over the course of time, I've beta tested quite a few games. But when they were still released, they still had bugs. The same bugs that we identified in the freaking beta testing. Like, there's these bugs. Might want to
We
fix
told you about that.
them. And they didn't come out, and it still had the same goddamn bugs. And it happened with Dark Tide. I was very disappointed with that game. I've
Oh
spoken
yeah.
about this before. I paid full price for the game, and I come in, and there's in-game currency in that. Okay, there's one thing, you have a free game, and then you buy in-game currency to progress. I understand you have a money model, you're trying to make money, and then you beta test a game, you release it full price, then you release it immediately on Xbox Game Pass, and you're like, hey, buy our currency. Hate it. Anyway, we've talked about that previously. I'm not going to get into that
Right.
rabbit hole. But the point is, the game still had bugs. Okay, and even after beta testing, if you're going to release a game that still has bugs, what's the point? You're gonna lose your player base faster than you can sell more copies. Like if that's your plan, you know,
and lose a reputation too.
lose your reputation. I don't want to buy another game coming out of your studio because it's not fun anymore. Ubisoft,
Mm-mm.
actually recovered themselves by re-releasing, not re-releasing, releasing better versions of their newer games that were more stable, had less bugs. They recovered. They had a bad rep for a time. Same with EA. You know,
For sure.
like EA used to release all these FIFA games, and FIFA has a huge player base. You guys don't understand. Like I have a cousin who's a Twitch streamer and he plays FIFA exclusively. He doesn't play anything else. These guys are insane. Like the
FIFA is a
European.
whole topic, man.
It's yeah,
FIFA is like a whole thing because it's the same game. It's literally the same game. I don't understand. Like, I mean, and
Yeah, I don't think
I love it, right? But at the same time, I'm
never
like,
played it.
why do we keep buying the same freaking game over and over again?
They change a little bit of things. It's the tweaks. Anyway, coming back to early access. So the games that I have right now in my library that are early access: Zomboid, 7 Days to Die, Satisfactory, Beaming Drive. Really fun game. I don't know if you guys have ever seen videos about these videos showing like if a car drops
Oh yeah, I have that
Earth,
game.
drops on Saturn,
Mm.
drops on Neptune. What's the gravity like? So it's a really really good game to understand scientific aspect of vehicles and physics and all that. Just really cool. Came out in 2015, still in early access, but overwhelmingly positive. Very popular with the viewers, not the viewers, but the gamers. They love it. A couple of games that we have played together. I don't know. Have I played Ground Branch with you guys? I don't think I have.
No,
Right?
no.
No, I haven't played it. I've watched it though. Ground Branch does look fun.
So Ground Branch is amazing at PvP, and on FFS we play Monday night Ground Branch nights. We
Mhm.
get a team going, we do 8v8s
Mm-hmm.
PvP, or we do PvE. It's a lot of fun. It's more of a tactical shooter. Um, uh, it's got positive reviews, not a whole lot. It's not that popular. It's not that mainstream, so it's only got like 12,000, 13,000 reviews. And the only negative reviews that I've seen is you cannot prone. Dude, not every game is.
Actually heard that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
pardon my
I've heard
language.
that about Ground Branch.
Every game is not freaking Call of Duty. It's not like run around like slap on the ground. Like it's not Rainbow Six Siege. For the love of God, like every game is different. Some games are tactical shooters. Like it's not designed that you run around, lay on the ground, get better accuracy, and lay down the fire. No, it's not. It's not. It's not like that. It's a breach and clear kind of game, which is another game that we've played, which is more breach and clear, is Ready or Not, which is, in my opinion, a lot of fun. But that's more geared towards PvE, whereas Ground Branch is more geared towards PvP and PvE. And Ground Branch, it's semi-realistic because somebody who's in the army, I realized that um, ready weapon, different positions that you have, the way you engage the threat, so on and so forth. It's very, very realistic the way they have implemented in Ground Branch, provided it came out in 2018, still in early access, but the development is consistent, which we talked about previously. Same with Ready or Not, came out in 2021, less than 2 years ago. It's not been 2 years since been out, but it's consistent. The development is there. There are already mods.
Yeah,
There's
Ready or Not's pretty good about that stuff
and
too.
we've played it together, Sakurai. Like it's so much fun. It reminds me of
It's hard.
listen,
I died
2004.
very
Yes,
fast.
you're not the only one. Okay, I've
Very
died to
fast. And
some.
it jump scares me because they just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, but you know what that game reminds me of? So in 2005, I saw this recently. SWAT 4 came out.
SWAT 4,
On
that is
PC.
what it
It's
is.
it's exactly the same, but newer. SWAT 4 had the whole wand. You look under the doors, you find the threat, reach and
Mm-hmm.
clear. It's a lot of fun. It's an early access game, but overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Kind of reminds me of Tarkov a little bit too. I don't know if
Mm,
they're
uh,
like, I mean, sort of. I
so
don't know.
Tarkov is a completely different game, though. You
Oh.
cannot like compare Tarkov.
It had the same feel, I feel like,
Yeah.
graphically, and like the sounds, the weapon sounds, and the look, I feel like.
Mm,
But I've only watched Tarkov. I haven't played it, so I could be totally wrong.
Ready or Not
Yeah.
is definitely a game where
yeah.
they try to accurately simulate those kinds of environments where
Yeah.
SWAT
I
would get
like
in.
it.
Yeah,
I
and
like
it's
it.
pretty cool. I definitely like playing that, like kind of like not role playing, but more of like clearing rooms in the right
Mm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm a stickler for this because a lot of people
Yeah.
moan about it because I'm
Yeah.
like, can we do this the right way and not just like run off? You know?
We I've seen that
Put your
once.
hands up.
I've seen too many people run in like headless chicken and just be like, "Oh my god, I've killed 5 guys, but he killed me." I was like, no, it's supposed to
Yeah.
work
You're
together as a
supposed to
Yeah.
protect the civilians. Why are you just running in and just blowing everybody up? This is not Doom.
everybody
Anyway,
loves is used to
Um,
Rainbow Six Siege, and
yeah.
yeah,
There's another game that's in early access that we mentioned before is Phasmo. Phasmo's still in early access, and it's like a full blown game.
I
You
yeah.
do
know
enjoy
that.
playing that.
I was surprised to hear that Phasmo was in early access because I feel like that game is
Yeah,
pretty.
it's pretty much done, right? And I
Yeah.
think that begs the question of what is early access? What exactly is early access? And this is like up in the air, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
From what I saw, early access doesn't have anything to do with really the development of the game. Early access is only a financial means
okay,
of funding the game, realistically, right?
yeah,
And if you look it up on Steam, it says that early access is not that, right? If
right,
you look up on Steam, it's like it's not supposed to fund your game.
Yeah, it
Like if
really
you were to,
recommends that developers not use early
Mhm.
access labeling as a way to fund the game, and they even have examples of past games that it didn't work out for because they did that, and
Right,
it actually has a lot of different information on there, which was nice to see because I think that they want to make sure that the games that are on their store are reputable, and while they don't
hmm
have control over what the developers do and things like that, just it helps keep players, using Steam. I hear people all the time say they boycott this platform, they boycott that platform because something or other happened, and
yeah.
I think this is one of the reasons why people always keep going back to Steam, and that's probably the main platform for many gamers on PC.
yeah, I would say it's like the top one. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
at
the, the
least
other one would be
I
like
think.
Dependable. It's the most
Epic.
I think
dependable
so too.
platform. I mean,
Hmm.
Lord Gaben is there to guide us all, you know.
Yeah,
But
I looked at Epic's early access page, and
yeah,
it just was not nearly as it didn't have as nearly as much information, just in comparison.
oh
Now I
yeah,
love Epic because it's where I spend most of my time,
Fortnite.
but but I just saw that and I thought, and Epic and Steam both what it appears that their definition of early access is, or what their thoughts are, even slightly different. So I
Right.
just
Yeah.
think it's depending on the person who's using the term.
But I
Yeah, but
think
it
Steam also
100%
pays for it.
is a funding
I think,
model,
yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
100% is, right?
I mean, you gotta
It
feed your
funds the
people.
game.
You
Yeah.
gotta feed your people. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's an indie studio, they can only go so long without running out of money. So they need to pay their people that are working on the video games, because if they don't, like, early access is a great way to generate funds for these games. But at the same time, you have to also look at the fact that 99% of these developers are actually working on their games. Like, they're not just leaving them alone. Like, there are always examples like the one you said, Sakurai, of the developer that just immediately dumped their game and didn't proceed forward with development of the game. But they're most of the games that I've played, the development teams are always pushing out updates. They always want to keep I mean, they release you a skeleton, they give you something different that's not released by AAA titles, and they're trying to make games that engage to the that are that engage the general audience, like
hmm
something
Yeah.
looking, like, I want a game like this that is a zombie survival game that's not a AAA title, that just shows, like, what was that game that just got released recently, that the one with the zombies and everything? Have you guys played it? It's the second part. Dead
The
Island.
scary one? No,
No,
wait, no.
like a week ago. But yeah, I
Oh,
saw
then
that
no.
and it was so weird. I saw a couple of streamers
You
playing
know
it,
I
right?
don't do zombies, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I think it's Dead Island 2, right? I might be wrong. If I say the name wrong, sorry guys. But so it came out recently and I was watching a few streamers, and it was, the game to me is cringe. For me, why, right? Okay, this guy's like over there, and or female or male character that you have, a firefighter or something, and you're like bashing zombies. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put you on my Instagram reels. I'm an influencer in California. Oh, look, so many views we got. Come on, man.
Tell us
Like,
how
what are
you
we?
really feel.
Tell us how you. Wait, this game is so cringe. I can't. Like, I saw the game. I was like, why?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's just I can't. But there are a few VR titles that are also in early access, but they're very popular.
Like what?
Yeah, I've been recently kind of delving into the VR stuff too. It's
Really?
pretty, yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I've had some strange interactions, but also some hilarious interactions in VR
I feel like
recently.
you have to tell us
Yeah,
about.
Like
I want
so,
to know
just
right?
like getting into the VR environments and stuff, like lobbies and stuff. Like
Oh,
people like
you're talking about VR chat?
no. I mean, people play that. I have tried to play that, but I have not yet been able to like get a group of people because I won't do it alone.
Mm.
But for instance, like sometimes I watch movies in VR, and there's
Oh,
an application called Big Screen VR. I think it's called. It's
okay.
also somewhat in early access. You can get it on Steam as well. Anyway, so I get it. You go into it, and it basically you join a movie theater full of people watching a movie together, and you're like everybody's just like bullshitting. We're all talking about the movie, and like you get into weird conversations about movies when you're just like talking to strangers, and it's like,
Dare to
man,
watch a
this is wild, you know?
God.
Does anyone get mad and like tell everyone to shut
Yeah,
up
for
and
sure.
watch
There's
the
always
movie?
a guy like that, and some people get mad about
Oh,
things. But I thought it was an interesting experience, because like there's always like one guy that's like super like
But,
knowledgeable about the history
yeah.
of the movie, and you're like, that artifact was blah, 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 and you're like, wow, what really? That's awesome, you know?
Well, the two games in VR that are in early access right now, that I've seen, and once again, very, very interactive development team
Hmm.
pushing out updates consistently. One is Blade and Sorcery, came out in 2018. Just recently, not too long ago, I have that game. I've barely played it because I get motion sickness and all that when I play
Right?
that.
Yeah.
mm.
I was like looking down and I saw like I don't know. It's like I'm gonna fall down. Ah, fuck. So I got motion sickness because of that. But I played that game, Blade and Sorcery. It's a lot of fun. You can either have a wand, and it's a lot of fun. But the game update is consistent. The game
Right.
update
Yeah.
is coming out. The developers are, in sync with the people, and it's overwhelmingly positive. And it's the same with Pavlov. Pavlov
Oh
is
yeah.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the one with the guns and you reload. And I've not played that game. I've watched a
Oh, that
bunch of
sounds kind of
content
cool.
on it. It is kind
There's
of cool.
another one called
I haven't
Onward.
seen a shooter VR
I've
game.
not played that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Onward is
Onward's another one that's
yeah.
like that.
Huh?
I yeah, and these games
How
are
how do you get past
consistently
the
developed.
nausea though? That's what I need. Can
I
you guys find a trick for that so that I can explore the VR
Somebody was
world?
saying that you could
You're
take like
asking the wrong
anti-nausea
person.
medication and it helps you like
I'll have to try that because we
you
have
have to
an
do it
office.
in you have to do it like steps to gain a tolerance level of it.
Mm.
So like my
Listen,
tolerance level is about 45 minutes of like doing stuff like that. Otherwise I just
yeah,
start hurling, you know.
listen. The only thing I use because I can't run anymore. So the only thing I use my VR for is for Beat Saber to keep my cardiovascular up.
Yeah,
I
Beat
just
Saber is awesome.
Are you dancing?
Yeah, of
Oh,
no,
course.
please
Because I
show
play another
videos of
one.
I'm
this.
not. I'm just
Audio
just
Trip is
saying
another
it's not
great
like
one.
it's
Audio
like
Oh
Trip
my
is
god.
is awesome because you're moving and you also have to like move your body really
Can we
fast.
do a dance
I can't
VR
do
episode?
that.
I'll
No,
show it to you one time.
Yeah, that's gonna be an
my
upcoming short.
my
Stay
broken ass
tuned.
is my broken ass
You
is
don't
not
want to see
gonna
this
fall
thing
down.
moving, man.
Yeah, you don't want. You're gonna hear a bunch of creaks and bangs coming out of my body. It's like starting up an old Buick in the morning. That's what I sound like.
So there's one thing I did want to mention about the early access model is that for indie developers that need this kind of model, this is a great way for those developers to get their game out, to
Yeah.
get funding, some kind of funding for this game, to get it moving in the right direction. What I don't think is the right way of using this model is if you're using this to fund your project and then you
Mhm.
fucking drop it. If you drop the
Yeah.
project like that, get out because this is
Yeah.
not the type of thing. Like if you're relying on that funding to keep going, it's not gonna work. You
Yeah.
have to be able to work without that funding, you
Yeah.
know? Also, like, I think that if bigger publishers start to use this kind of model, they can totally destroy the whole system of
Yeah.
early access.
Oh,
I
for
don't think
sure.
they should. Morally, it's not right. And
Right?
like
It's
you
not.
said,
Yeah.
if you're taking people's hard-earned money, because not everybody knows everybody's story. You're working 40 hours a week, and your only escape at the when the weekend is come back. And you play with your old buddies, like old school buddies. You spend some time. You're like, hey man, I found this really cool game. It's only $10 on Steam. It's an early access, but we can play together and have fun. But if you take even those $10, which in today's inflation environment is not a whole lot of money, but if you take, which is true, if you take that person's hard-earned money, maybe they work $10 an hour. You take those
Yeah.
$10 from that person, and then you immediately drop the game. It kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to achieve. Because
Hmm.
what's the purpose? Why are you developing this game? You're developing it to make people happy,
Yeah, I
entertain.
agree.
It's
It's
entertainment.
manipulation, and shame on them for
Yeah,
doing
it's
that.
shame on you if you decide to drop your game for that one person
Yeah,
that actually enjoyed your game and wanted to spend some time with his
yeah.
buddies.
Hmm.
So it's very disheartening, and I don't think that is the way to go. I think if you're raising money for your game, then you should consistently develop it so people keep enjoying your product with their friends or by themselves.
And be communicative, like what you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier.
Oh yeah.
That goes a long way. Just a
It does.
human factor there. Like, hey, even if the updates maybe are fewer and far between than we would like, but just communication in general can really, just make that cause ease there at
Immense
least.
difference. Immense difference. Absolutely.
So another question I wanted to bring up in this thing was like, how long do you think a game should be in early access? Because every developer has their own version of how long it should be in. And to me personally, I would say like there has to be a timeline, a goal to say when does it stop? It has to be like, okay, we're gonna reach this goal, and that's when we're gonna switch from early access to it is a complete game that we can market, right?
I agree.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question because a couple of games that I talked about here have been out for almost 10 years or more.
Yeah, that's insane.
And
For me,
it's
that would be like too much.
Oh, that's
yeah,
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
it's why. Okay, let me put it this way, right? So also depends on how many copies you sold, right? Project Zomboid at one time, if I look it up right now, like let's say, 7,000 people are playing right now. 7 Days to Die, on the other hand, is significantly more popular. Peak time, you'll see 35,000 people playing that game at a time, and it's popular across
Mhm.
the board, across the world. Project Zomboid is more of a top-down kind of game,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah.
7 Days to Die is a first-person shooter. 10 years is a long time for a game
Sure
to be in
is.
early access. My opinion is that you reach your goal. You have, like, let's say, hypothetical situation, right? We need to raise $100,000 to finish this project. You reach that $100,000, you should be done. Release the game full. Keep updates going. Don't
Right,
call
yeah.
your game an alpha. Don't call your game a beta. Don't call your game a build. I think it's
Full
time.
release. Yeah.
Release full release the game. Keep pushing the updates out. Why are you still relying on the early access model? What's the point? Your game has hundreds of mods. Your game has so many mods that are work in tandem with your game and work really well. Why are you still in early access? What's the reason behind it? Tell us. You
Yeah,
release,
yeah. Or
communicate.
like start
Like,
releasing a DLC or something if it's gonna be that big,
why would I would not buy a DLC if it was really
So DLCs are a whole different topic, but yeah.
Yeah.
no.
So for me, I think that what my personal expectation would be, because I don't know, different games may say here's our plan, and it may be different than this. But I
Uh-huh.
feel like at most in early access, 18 to 24 months, and that's with an idea of what their vision is and why they feel like it may take that amount of time.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've looked at some of the games on Steam's early access list, and some of them do have information like that. Like, hey, here's what we are expecting. Here's our
roadmap.
projection, and here's why.
It's a
And even if it were like not an amount of time, but hey, we are not using this to fund it, but once we hit X amount, then that's when we, just some kind of, like you said, roadmap.
Yeah, a roadmap is excellent, but these are our opinions, and it's
for
our
sure.
opinions as 3 people.
I
But
don't
I
know
think
anything.
it would be excellent. We can pose a question to our audience at this moment, like, "Hey, what do you think? What do you
Yeah,
think is the
exactly.
I'm
correct time
curious.
frame for a game if it goes in early access? When should they say, okay, our game is finished? This is a full release game. We're still working on the game. We'll keep you updated, but we're taking it out of early access. What do you think
Yeah,
is the
please write
correct
us about
time
it.
frame? Yeah, write us.
Let us
Tell
know
us
what we're not
what you
thinking
think.
of,
If
and
you're a developer who still has a game in early access for over 10 years, tell us why. We would love to hear from
yeah.
you. This is our opinion. It should not offend
Mhm.
you. We have every right to ask questions like this, like,
Unless
hey,
you dropped your game and let
unless you
people
dropped
down,
your game and you're
and then it
you're
should have
a shitbag that decided,
just
like,
let you know we're disappointed.
screw the player base.
Another
Just
question is like, is this the new model, or is this the new way for indie developers to basically get their game going? Like, is this the normal? Should we expect this from all indie developers to start using early access, or to continue to use early access? As has been in the last 10 years or so, the early
Mhm.
access model's been used graciously by many indie developers. Um, is this the way that it should continue to be, or is there a
Yeah.
better system for indie developers to get out there?
Yeah.
What do you guys
Well,
think?
I wouldn't
crowdfunding is
know
a
on
way.
that.
Crowdfunding is a way. I mean,
Crowd
hell, at least got started on crowdfunding.
It did.
Um,
Star Citizen did.
ooh, Star System. Well,
I dare you to buy 25.
nope, nope. Yeah,
It's
if
what
anybody
it's
also
yeah.
like has an idea, like, should early access be the normal, or do you think there's a better way of like getting games that developers want to build? They want to build these environments, they want to build these stories, they want to build these games for us. Is early access the right way? Maybe there's a different way that we
Hell,
can
it's
get these
right.
games out without having the problems that it does.
Listen, man. I don't know about you, but it doesn't matter if it's early access or not. If it's a AAA title, it will still have freaking bugs, even
Oh
if
yeah,
it's fully released, if it's
for
early
sure.
access or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. It's a whole different ball game. Dead
Obviously, we feel like indie developers care a lot more about their
Rising,
baby projects,
Yeah.
right?
they
Yeah.
do.
Rather than like EA is just like, fucking put it out, just get it out,
Right. Yeah.
Gotta
Well,
get
and
the
then also,
money.
indie developers depend a lot on, what the players think, because it's a smaller player base, especially
Oh
to
yeah,
start usually.
absolutely.
So it's like it's one thing to be playing an early access game knowing that you're having a hand in helping them develop it with your feedback.
Right,
It's
yeah.
one thing to
You get
know you're
fans.
not being taken advantage of because they truly care about the game. But unfortunately, I think there are just some developers that have made a bad name for early access and just
Mhm.
taken advantage of people and used it as a manipulation to make money
Do you
and not
think a
fulfill
a
promises.
publisher, a big developer publisher thing, would take advantage of this model? Do you think? Because I haven't seen a
Um,
large this happening, but
they won't.
do you think they will?
They won't because you've got first quarter reports, you got second quarter
Yeah,
reports,
I don't
you
think they
gotta
could
you gotta
explain it.
pay.
It
Yeah, and
wouldn't look.
you've got investors. They can't do early access.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they can't. You never know. If they gotta
Yeah,
raise
right. Never
money,
say never.
they don't need to. But if they do, they do. But at the same time, indie developers don't have to worry about
yeah.
we gotta show third quarterly reports for our investors. How much money we've made. Blah blah blah. They
Could
don't
you
have to.
imagine like EA be like, we
God,
don't have enough money to build this game?
please. $70? $70 for standard games now.
Yeah.
I thought it was $60. Holy. Anyway,
No,
we
no,
talked about
70
this
is
in
the
our
new
previous
normal.
episode. $70.
I
Anyways,
mean, another thing we mentioned this episode was DLCs. Maybe we should talk about that later at
yeah,
another podcast, because
that's
that's
cool.
another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
DLC's coming in.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we're coming
another
to
rabbit hole for sure. I think we've covered a lot for early access, and I hope that we hear from some of the audience on their thoughts.
absolutely
School me a little bit. I don't know as much about the alpha, beta, early access, and all that jazz. So
Yeah, I think
well,
it would be great. It would be great to hear from you guys. You know, your opinions matter. Everybody's opinion matters. You're, entitled to have one. It's the First
unless
Amendment.
you dropped a game after taking money for, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, write to us on player2start
Play to start podcast at
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. I said it right. I messed it up royally there.
All right, so
guys.
that's a wrap for episode 5. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.